They thought humans were dangerous, but that wasn't even our best. A 5-part HFY science fiction story. Outline Part 1. First Contact. Protocol setting. The year 2387. Aboard the human exploration vessel, UNS Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison commands a routine deep space survey mission when his crew encounters the Vorthak Collective, a militaristic alien empire that has dominated this sector for millennia. The Vorthak are reptilian humanoids, standing 8 feet tall with natural armor plating and incredible physical strength. They've built their empire by conquering species they deem weak. When Commander Lisa Grant's communications team establishes first contact, the Vorthak immediately classify humans as a warrior species due to their military protocols and defensive capabilities. The aliens are impressed by human weapons technology and tactical thinking, but they still consider humanity inferior to their own martial prowess. The Vorthak leader, War Chief Zethros, challenges the humans to prove their worth through combat trials. Chief Engineer Ryan Cooper suggests they accept, believing it's their only path to peaceful coexistence. The crew prepares for what they assume will be a test of military might. Part 2. The Warriors' Trial Setting. Vorthak Battle Arena on the Fortress. World of Krekstar Security Chief Danny Walsh leads a team including medic Katie Brooks and pilot Sam Turner into the Vorthak's traditional combat trials. The aliens expect brutal, straightforward warfare, the kind that has served them well for centuries. Instead, they witness something unprecedented. When faced with seemingly impossible odds, the human team doesn't just fight, they adapt. They analyze their opponents mid-battle, modify their tactics in real time, and turn the arena's own hazards into weapons. They don't just survive, they innovate under pressure. The Vorthak are stunned. They've never seen a species that could rapidly evolve their strategies during combat. What they mistake for exceptional warrior instincts is actually humanity's greatest strength beginning to show itself. War Chief Zethros declares humans to be formidable warriors worthy of respect. He offers them a place in the collective as honored fighters. The humans accept, but Captain Morrison senses this is just the beginning of a much larger revelation. Part 3. Beyond the battlefield setting. Various worlds within the Vorthak collectives. Territory as humans integrate into Vorthak society. They're assigned to military units across the empire. Marine Lieutenant Alex Chen finds herself on a mining world where the collective's traditional mining techniques are failing. The operation is behind schedule and over budget. Dr. Peter Yang, a xenobiologist who joined the military expedition, observes that the Vorthak approach every problem like a battle to be won through force. They're trying to blast through unstable rock formations instead of working with the geology. When Chen suggests alternative approaches based on human engineering principles, the Vorthak dismiss it as non-warrior thinking. But when their methods continue to fail, they reluctantly allow the humans to try. Within weeks, the humans have revolutionized the entire operation. They don't just extract resources, they optimize the process, minimize waste, and increase yield. The Vorthak are confused but impressed by these advanced warrior techniques. Navigator Emma Scott, working with Vorthak fleet commanders, begins introducing concepts of logistics optimization and supply chain management. The aliens assume these are sophisticated military strategies, not realizing they're witnessing humanity's natural problem-solving abilities applied to everyday challenges. Part 4. The Great Deception. Unravel setting. The Vorthak capital world. Of Nexus Prime Admiral Greg Foster, now serving as a human liaison to the Vorthak High Command, faces a crisis that will reveal the truth about humanity. A plague is sweeping through collective worlds. Not a biological plague, but a technological one. An ancient automated defense system has been awakened, and it's systematically shutting down the infrastructure of every world it touches. The Vorthak's response is predictably military. They try to destroy the systems with brute force. This only makes the problem worse as the ancient technology adapts to their attacks and spreads faster. Dr. Nancy White, a human systems analyst, realizes the truth. This isn't a weapon to be defeated, but a problem to be solved. The ancient system isn't malicious. It's confused, trying to fulfill its original programming in a galaxy that has changed beyond recognition. Working with communications specialist Chris Martinez and engineer Helen Davis, the human team doesn't try to fight the system. Instead, they communicate with it, understand its purpose, and find a way to help it achieve its goals without destroying modern civilization. The Vorthak watch in amazement as humans accomplish in days what their greatest military minds couldn't achieve in months of warfare. For the first time, War Chief Zethros begins to suspect that humans aren't just excellent warriors, they're something else entirely. Part 5. The True Nature. Revealed setting. A galactic summit on the neutral world of Haven's Gate. The crisis with the ancient systems leads to a galactic summit where dozens of alien species gather to address the growing technological plague. The Vorthak proudly present their human allies as master warriors who solved an impossible military challenge. But as the summit progresses, representatives from other species, the scholarly Elthari, the diplomatic Zenthi, the artistic Milani, and others, begin to interact with the humans. Each group sees something different. The Elthari are amazed by human curiosity and learning capacity, the Zenthi are impressed by their negotiation skills, and the Milani are moved by human creativity. Captain Morrison, now representing humanity on the galactic stage, realizes the moment of truth has arrived. In a pivotal speech to the assembled species, he reveals what the Vorthak never understood. Humans aren't a warrior species at all. You saw us adapt in combat and thought we were great fighters, Morrison explains to the shocked Vorthak. You saw us solve your industrial problems and thought we were strategic geniuses. You saw us communicate with ancient machines and thought we were master tacticians. But that was never our strength. Morrison reveals humanity's true nature. They are the ultimate generalist species. Where other races specialized and excelled in specific areas, humans remained adaptable. They don't have the raw strength of the Vorthak, the intellect of the Elthari, or the empathy of the Zenthi. But they have something more valuable: the ability to learn, adapt, and find solutions by combining different approaches. We're not the greatest warriors, scientists, or diplomats, Morrison concludes. We're the species that can become whatever the situation requires. That was never our best. Our best is that we never stopped trying to be better. War Chief Zethros, initially feeling deceived, comes to understand that humans didn't lie to them. The Vorthak simply saw only what they were looking for. The revelation transforms galactic politics as species begin to see the value, not in pure specialization, but in adaptability and cooperation. The story ends with humanity not conquering the galaxy through superior warfare, but transforming it through their unique gift, the ability to bridge differences and find solutions that no single specialized species could achieve alone. Themes and character development. The story explores themes of assumptions, the value of adaptability over specialization, and how different perspectives can lead to vastly different interpretations of the same abilities. Each human character represents a different aspect of humanity's adaptability, from military flexibility to scientific curiosity to creative problem-solving. The Vorthak serve as a mirror, showing how a society built entirely around one concept, warfare, might misinterpret and limit their understanding of other species and solutions. Story structure. Notes. Each part builds the mystery of what humans really are. The revelation is gradual, with hints throughout that there's more to humanity than meets the eye. The climax isn't a battle but a moment of understanding and communication. The resolution shows the positive transformation this brings to galactic civilization. All character names are simple American names as requested, avoiding the specified names to exclude. The stars looked cold and distant through the viewing port of the UNS Horizon, as Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching his crew work. They had been traveling through this empty sector of space for 3 months now, mapping star systems and looking for signs of life. So far, they had found nothing but dead rocks and gas giants. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and serious eyes who had spent 15 years in the space service. He liked the quiet moments between discoveries when his crew could focus on their work without worrying about unknown dangers. The Horizon was not a warship, but it carried enough weapons to defend itself if needed. Commander Lisa Grant sat at the communications station running her daily checks on the long-range sensors. She was younger than Jake, with blonde hair and quick fingers that moved across her control panels like she was playing music. Lisa had joined the crew 2 years ago and quickly became one of the best communications officers in the fleet. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the far edge of our sensor range," Lisa said without looking up from her screens. Her voice carried that careful tone she used when she found something that might be important. Jake walked over to her station and looked at the readings. The sensors showed a large object moving toward them at high speed. It was too big to be an asteroid, and moving too fast to be a natural phenomenon. "How long until it reaches us?" he asked. "At current speed, maybe 6 hours," Lisa replied. She adjusted her controls and the image on her screen became clearer. "Captain, this thing is huge. It's at least 3 times the size of our ship, and it's definitely artificial." The bridge became quiet as other crew members stopped their work to listen. Jake felt his heart beat a little faster, but kept his voice calm. "Send a message to Earth. Command and let them know what we found. Then wake up the day shift and get everyone to their stations." Chief Engineer Ryan Cooper was the first to arrive on the bridge. He was a short man with thick arms and grease under his fingernails who could fix anything that broke on the ship. Ryan had been Jake's friend since their academy days, and Jake trusted his judgment completely. "What do we know about our visitors?" Ryan asked as he took his place at the engineering station. "Not much yet, but they're definitely not from around here," Jake replied. "Lisa, any response to our standard first contact signals?" Lisa shook her head. "Nothing yet, but I'm trying different frequencies. Maybe they don't use the same communication methods we do." The next few hours passed slowly as the crew prepared for whatever was coming. Security Chief Danny Walsh checked all the weapon systems, while Medic Katie Brooks made sure the medical bay was ready for anything. Pilot Sam Turner ran diagnostics on all the ship's systems and made sure they could run or fight if needed. When the alien ship finally appeared on their visual screens, the entire crew stopped what they were doing to stare. The vessel was massive and dark with sharp angles that looked like it was built for war. Strange symbols covered its hull and weapon ports lined its sides like teeth in a giant mouth. "Captain, they're scanning us," Lisa reported. "Very thorough scans, like they're looking at every bolt and wire on our ship." Jake nodded and straightened his uniform. "Open a channel on all frequencies. Let's see if we can talk to them." Lisa worked her controls for several minutes before a harsh voice filled the bridge. The words came through in a language none of them recognized, but the ship's computer quickly began translating. "Unknown vessel, you will identify yourself and state your purpose in Vorthak space," the voice demanded. Even through the translation, it sounded angry and threatening. Jake took a deep breath and activated the communication system. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Nations ship Horizon. We are explorers from Earth conducting peaceful surveys of this region. We mean no harm to you or your people." There was a long silence before the alien voice spoke again. "Earth creatures, you carry weapons and your ship shows signs of combat capability. You are a warrior species. This is acceptable to the Vorthak Collective." Jake exchanged glances with Ryan and Lisa. The alien seemed pleased that humans had weapons, which was not the usual reaction from peaceful species. "We carry weapons only for defense," Jake replied carefully. "We prefer to solve problems through discussion and cooperation." The alien voice made a sound that might have been laughter. "All warrior species claim they fight only for defense. Your weapons are primitive but show clever design. Your ship moves well, and your crew responds with military precision. The Vorthak respect strength." Lisa whispered to Jake, "Captain, I'm reading multiple ships now. At least 12 of them surrounding us." Jake kept his face calm even though his hands wanted to shake. They were completely outnumbered and outgunned. "We would welcome the chance to meet with your people and learn about your culture," he said to the aliens. "You will come aboard our command ship," the voice replied. "War Chief Zethros will decide if you are worthy of the collective's attention. Bring your best warriors, we will test their strength." The communication ended with a sharp click, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked at his crew and saw the same mix of fear and excitement in their eyes that he felt in his chest. "Well, that was interesting," Ryan said with a nervous smile. They think we're some kind of warrior race. Should we correct them? Lisa asked. Jake thought about it for a moment. Let's see what they want first. Maybe this misunderstanding will work in our favor. Danny Walsh stepped forward. Captain, if they want to test our warriors, I volunteer to go with you. Katie Brooks nodded. I'll come too in case anyone gets hurt. Sam Turner looked up from his controls. The pilot should probably stay with the ship, but I can have the shuttle ready in 10 minutes. Jake felt proud of his crew, but also worried about what they were walking into. The Vorthak clearly respected military strength, but humans had always preferred to avoid fighting when possible. Now they were about to meet aliens who seemed to value nothing but combat ability. All right, people, let's go meet our new neighbors, Jake said. Remember, we're representing all of humanity here. Let's show them what humans are really made of. As they prepared to leave their ship, none of them realized they were about to begin a deception that would change the galaxy forever. The Vorthak thought they understood what humans were, but they were about to discover that their first impression was only the beginning of a much bigger story. The Vorthak command ship was twice the size of anything Jake Morrison had ever seen before. Its metal walls were covered with scratches and burn marks that told stories of countless battles. Strange symbols glowed with red light along the corridors as armed Vorthak soldiers escorted the human team deeper into the vessel. War Chief Zethros stood 8 feet tall, with dark green scales covering his massive frame. His yellow eyes studied the humans like a predator watching potential prey. Sharp claws extended from his fingers and rows of teeth filled his mouth when he spoke. So these are the Earth Warriors, Zethros said in his deep voice. They are smaller than I expected, but their equipment shows they understand combat. Jake stood as straight as he could manage while looking up at the alien commander. Danny Walsh, Katie Brooks, and Sam Turner stayed close behind him, their hands near their weapons but trying not to appear threatening. We are honored to meet with you, War Chief, Jake said carefully. We hope this can be the beginning of friendship between our peoples. Zethros made a growling sound that might have been amusement. Friendship is earned through strength, human. The Vorthak have ruled this sector for 3,000 of your years because we prove our worth in battle. Those who cannot fight serve those who can. The war chief turned and began walking down a long corridor lined with weapons and battle trophies from conquered worlds. Your species shows promise, but promises mean nothing without proof. You will face our trials and show us what Earth Warriors can do, Sam Turner whispered to Danny. This doesn't sound like a friendly chat. Danny nodded but kept his voice low. Just follow the captain's lead and stay alert. They entered a massive chamber that looked like an arena from ancient Rome, but with advanced technology built into every surface. Thousands of Vorthak soldiers filled the viewing areas above, while weapon platforms and obstacle courses covered the arena floor. This is where we test all potential allies, Zethros explained. Your team will face 3 challenges that have broken the spirit of every species we have encountered. Those who survive with honor earn our respect. Those who fail serve as examples. Katie. Brooks felt her heart racing but forced herself to stay calm. As the team's medic, she knew the others would look to her if anyone got hurt. She checked her medical supplies and hoped they would be enough. What kind of challenges? Jake asked. First, you will face our automated defense systems in live combat, Zethros replied. Second, you will navigate our maze of death while under fire. Third, you will battle our champion warriors in single combat. Each test is designed to push your abilities beyond their limits. The human team exchanged worried glances. They were scientists and explorers, not professional soldiers. Their weapons and training were meant for defense against pirates and hostile wildlife, not gladiator games against a warrior race. We accept your challenges, Jake said, knowing they had no choice. But we fight as a team, not as individuals. Zethros nodded approvingly. Team tactics show wisdom. Begin when you are ready. The first challenge started immediately as weapon platforms rose from the arena floor and began firing energy bolts at the human team. The Vorthak expected them to charge forward with weapons blazing like every other species had done. Instead, Danny Walsh analyzed the firing patterns for 30 seconds before signaling to the others. They're following a preset program, he called out. Sam, can you time the intervals? Sam Turner counted the shots while staying behind cover. 14 seconds between volleys from each platform. They're rotating in sequence. Katie Brooks spotted something the Vorthak had missed. The platforms are designed to hit targets that move in straight lines. Look at the scorch marks on the walls. Jake smiled for the first time since boarding the alien ship. Okay, people, let's show them something they haven't seen before. The human team began moving in a pattern that looked random, but was actually calculated to exploit the weaknesses in the automated systems. They used the arena's own obstacles as shields and timing devices, turning the death trap into a puzzle to be solved. When Danny reached the first weapon platform, he didn't try to destroy it. Instead, he used his tools to reprogram its targeting system. Within minutes, the platform was firing at its neighboring weapons instead of at the humans. The Vorthak audience grew quiet as they watched the humans turn their trial into a technical exercise. No species had ever tried to reprogram the weapons before. They had all relied on strength and speed instead of intelligence and creativity. The maze challenge went even worse for the Vorthak expectations. The humans spent the first 10 minutes studying the layout and identifying the patterns in the trap mechanisms. Katie Brooks used her medical scanner to detect pressure plates, while Sam Turner mapped the safe routes using his pilot navigation skills. This isn't random, Jake realized as he watched the traps activate. It's like a giant combination lock. Each section has a specific sequence. They solved the maze in half the time it usually took warriors to fight their way through it. The Vorthak had never seen anyone treat their deadly trial like a logic problem instead of a battle course. The final challenge should have been the easiest for the Vorthak to understand. Single combat against their best warriors was something every species attempted with brute force. But again, the humans surprised everyone. When the first Vorthak champion charged Danny Walsh with claws extended, Danny didn't try to match his opponent's strength. Instead, he studied the alien's movement pattern and used the warrior's own momentum against him. Within seconds, the champion was on the ground wondering what had happened. Katie Brooks faced the second champion and used her medical knowledge to identify weak points in Vorthak anatomy. She didn't try to hurt her opponent, just applied pressure to nerve clusters that made it impossible for him to continue fighting. Sam Turner actually convinced his opponent to surrender by demonstrating 3 different ways he could have won the fight without using any of them. The confused Vorthak warrior sat down in the middle of the arena and refused to continue. War Chief Zethros stared at the humans with a mixture of respect and confusion. In 30 years of testing alien species, he had never seen anyone approach the trials like this. Every other race had tried to win through superior strength or advanced weapons. How did you do this? He demanded. You turned our weapons against each other, solved our maze like a puzzle, and defeated our champions without seriously injuring them. What kind of warriors are you? Jake looked up at the massive alien commander and chose his words carefully. We are the kind of warriors who prefer to think before we fight, War Chief. Sometimes the best way to win a battle is to change the rules. Zethros was quiet for a long moment before speaking again. You have earned the respect of the Vorthak Collective. Your tactics are unlike anything we have seen. You will be welcome as honored allies in our empire. As the human team was escorted to guest quarters aboard the Vorthak ship, none of them realized they had just begun a deception that would reshape the galaxy. The aliens thought they had discovered master warriors with revolutionary battle tactics. In reality, they had encountered something much more dangerous to their worldview. A species that treated every challenge as a problem to be solved, rather than an enemy to be destroyed. 3 months after the trials, Marine Lieutenant Alex Chen found herself standing on the dusty surface of Korvax Prime, watching Vorthak mining crews struggle with their equipment. The planet was rich in rare metals that the collective needed for their war machines, but the operation was months behind schedule and burning through resources faster than anyone had expected. Alex was a practical woman with black hair and steady hands who had joined the Marines to see the galaxy. She never expected to become part of an alien mining operation, but the Vorthak had assigned human warriors to various projects across their empire to learn from their advanced tactics. Commander Braktor, the Vorthak overseer of the mining operation, was a scarred veteran with one missing eye who treated every problem like an enemy to be crushed. He stood next to Alex watching his crews attack a stubborn rock formation with heavy explosives for the third time that week. "These cursed rocks refuse to yield to our assault," Bractor growled. "We have used enough explosives to level a small city, but the formation remains intact. Perhaps your human battle wisdom can suggest a more powerful weapon." Alex studied the rock face with the same careful attention she had learned to use when analyzing enemy positions. The Vorthak were trying to blast straight through layers of compressed stone and metal ore, but each explosion only made the remaining material harder and more unstable. "Commander, what if the problem isn't that we need bigger explosives?" Alex said slowly. "What if we're attacking from the wrong angle?" Bractor snorted with impatience. "There is only one way to break an enemy, Lieutenant. Apply superior force until it surrenders or dies." Dr. Peter Yang, who had been studying the geological reports, looked up from his scanner. Peter was a quiet man with thick glasses who had volunteered to join the military expedition because he wanted to learn about alien environments. The Vorthak treated him as some kind of warrior scientist, though he had never fired a weapon in anger. "Alex is right," Peter said. "Look at these mineral layers. They're compressed in alternating patterns of hard and soft stone. If we blast from the top, we're trying to break through the hardest parts first." Alex nodded and pointed to a spot lower on the cliff face. "But if we start here and work with the natural stress patterns instead of against them, we could separate the layers instead of trying to pulverize them." Bractor looked confused. "You mean retreat from the strongest point and attack where the enemy is weak? This is acceptable warrior thinking, but how does it help us extract more ore?" "Because we're not just breaking rocks," Alex explained patiently. "We're harvesting resources. The goal isn't to destroy the formation. It's to extract the valuable materials with minimal waste and maximum efficiency." The Vorthak commander stared at her for a long moment. In 3 centuries of mining operations, no one had ever suggested that the goal was anything other than smashing through obstacles with maximum force. The idea that they should work with the environment instead of conquering it was completely foreign to his thinking. "Show me these advanced human tactics," Bractor finally said. Alex and Peter spent the next week redesigning the entire mining operation. Instead of random explosive attacks, they mapped out the geological structure and identified the optimal extraction points. They introduced concepts like controlled blasting, sequential extraction, and waste minimization that the Vorthak had never considered. Navigator Emma Scott arrived from the orbital station just as the new system produced its first results. Emma was a tall woman with red hair who had been working with the Vorthak fleet commanders to improve their supply routes. She brought news that other human advisors were having similar success across the collective. Chris Martinez managed to increase communication efficiency in the Third Fleet by 40%, Emma reported as she watched Vorthak workers carefully separate ore from waste rock. The fleet commanders think he developed some kind of advanced encryption warfare, but really he just organized their message priorities and eliminated duplicate transmissions. Peter laughed as he recorded the day's mineral yields. And Helen Davis convinced the shipyard managers to rearrange their construction schedules. They think she created a revolutionary battle logistics system, but she just applied basic project management principles. Alex wiped dust from her hands and looked at the transformed mining operation. Where chaos and waste had ruled before, she now saw organized teams working efficiently through the geological layers. The daily ore production had tripled while using half the explosives. "The funny thing is, they're not wrong about us being different," Alex said. "We are changing how they do things. They just don't understand what makes us different." Bractor approached them with something that might have been excitement in his yellow eyes. "Lieutenant Chen, your warrior techniques have exceeded all expectations. We are extracting more resources than ever before while using fewer supplies. The High Command wants to know how you developed such advanced strategic thinking." Alex looked at Peter and Emma, trying to figure out how to explain that she hadn't used any advanced strategic thinking at all. She had simply approached the mining operation like any other problem that needed to be solved efficiently. "Commander, we learned these techniques through long experience with similar challenges," she said carefully. "Human warriors must be adaptable because we face many different types of battles. This seemed to satisfy Bractor, who nodded approvingly. Yes, this explains your success. You treat each challenge as a unique enemy that requires specific tactics. Very advanced warrior philosophy. Emma pulled Alex aside while the Vorthak commander went to file his report with the High Command. Alex, do you realize what's happening here? They think everything we do is some kind of military strategy. They can't understand that we're just being practical. I know, Alex replied. But look at the results. This mining operation was failing before we got here. Now it's the most productive site in the sector. The Vorthak are learning to work smarter instead of just harder. Peter joined their quiet conversation. The question is, how long can we keep this up? Every success makes them more curious about our methods. Eventually someone is going to figure out that we're not the master warriors they think we are. Alex watched Vorthak miners carefully extract a perfect crystal formation using the gentle techniques she had taught them instead of blasting it to pieces. Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing, she said. They're becoming better at what they do, because they think they're learning advanced warfare tactics, but really they're just learning to think before they act. Emma nodded thoughtfully. The irony is that they respect us because they think we're great warriors, but the things they're learning from us might actually make them less warlike in the long run. As the three humans watched the sunset paint the alien sky in shades of purple and gold, none of them realized they were part of a transformation that would eventually change the nature of the entire Vorthak collective. The aliens thought they were learning advanced military techniques from master warriors, but they were actually discovering the power of cooperation, efficiency, and creative problem-solving. The deception was working better than anyone had dared to hope, but it was also creating changes that no one had expected. Across the collective, human advisors were introducing new ways of thinking disguised as warrior wisdom, and the proud martial culture was slowly learning that sometimes the best way to win was to change the game entirely. The neutral world of Haven's Gate had never seen such a gathering before. Representatives from dozens of alien species filled the massive conference hall while their ships formed a glittering cloud around the planet. The crisis with the ancient Guardian systems had brought together races that had never spoken to each other before, all seeking answers about the technological plague that had threatened the entire galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the center of it all, wearing his dress uniform and trying not to show how nervous he felt. 6 months ago, he had been exploring empty star systems with a small crew. Now he was about to address the largest gathering of alien civilizations in recorded history. War Chief Zethros sat with the Vorthak delegation, his yellow eyes fixed on Jake with an intensity that made the human captain uncomfortable. Ever since the Guardian crisis ended, the Vorthak leader had been asking questions that came dangerously close to the truth about human nature. The galactic community owes a great debt to the Vorthak collective and their human allies, announced Chancellor Veltar of the scholarly Elthari race. The Elthari were tall, thin beings with large heads who had spent centuries studying the ruins of ancient civilizations. Without their intervention, the Guardian systems would have eventually shut down all technology in this sector. Ambassador Shel Nara of the diplomatic Zenthi smiled with her 4 eyes and gestured gracefully with her 6 arms. The Zenthi were natural peacemakers who had built their civilization around negotiation and compromise. We are particularly interested in learning more about human tactical methods. Perhaps they could share their knowledge with the rest of the galaxy, Jacob. Felt sweat forming on his forehead as dozens of alien eyes focused on him. The moment of truth had finally arrived, and he wasn't sure how the various species would react when they learned what humans really were. Artisan Prime Mel Odos of the creative Milani floated above his delegation on gossamer wings that sparkled with natural bioluminescence. The Milani were artists and poets who saw beauty in everything and expressed themselves through colors that shifted across their translucent skin. We have observed human methods with great fascination. They approach problems with a creativity we have rarely encountered. War Chief Zethros stood slowly, his massive frame towering over the other delegates. Yes, let us hear more about these human methods. In all my years of warfare, I have never seen tactics quite like theirs. Sometimes I wonder if they are warriors at all. The conference hall grew quiet as every species turned to look at Jake. He could see curiosity in some faces, suspicion in others, and something that might have been hope in a few. The weight of representing all humanity pressed down on his shoulders like a physical burden. Jake took a deep breath and made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. War Chief Zethros is right to question what we are, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. The Vorthak have honored us by calling us great warriors, but that was never the truth. Confused murmurs rippled through the alien delegations as Jake continued speaking. You saw us adapt in combat and thought we were master fighters. You saw us solve your industrial problems and thought we were strategic geniuses. You saw us communicate with ancient machines and thought we were diplomatic warriors. But you were looking at us through the lens of your own specializations. Zethros leaned forward with dangerous interest. Then what are you, human? Jake gestured to where his crew members sat in the audience. Alex Chen and Danny Walsh represented the military advisors who had transformed Vorthak industry. Nancy White and Chris Martinez represented the technical specialists who had ended the Guardian crisis. Each of them had contributed to the deception simply by being themselves. We are not the greatest warriors in the galaxy, Jake said clearly. The Vorthak are stronger and more experienced in battle than we will ever be. We are not the greatest scientists. The Elthari have knowledge that surpasses ours in every field. We are not the greatest diplomats. The Zenthi understand negotiation better than we ever could. Chancellor Veltar tilted his large head thoughtfully. Then what makes you special, Captain Morrison? Jake smiled for the first time since the conference began. We are generalists in a galaxy of specialists. Every other species we have met excelled in one area and built their entire civilization around that strength. You became the greatest warriors, the greatest scholars, the greatest artists, but humans never specialized that way. Ambassador Shelnara's skin shifted to colors of confusion and curiosity. Why would you choose to be mediocre at everything instead of excellent at one thing? Because we didn't choose it, Jake replied. It's simply what we are. When the Vorthak needed better mining techniques, we didn't use advanced warrior strategies. We just approached the problem the way humans always do, by trying to understand it first, and then finding the most practical solution. Nancy White stood up from the audience and added her voice to Jake's explanation. When the Guardian systems threatened your worlds, we didn't use diplomatic warfare tactics. We just did what felt natural to us. We tried to figure out what the systems wanted and find a way to give it to them. War Chief Zethros was silent for a long moment before speaking. You mean everything we learned from you? All the techniques that revolutionized our operations were just normal human behavior. That's exactly right, Jake confirmed. You thought we were teaching you advanced military strategies, but we were just showing you how humans naturally approach problems. We look at the situation, try to understand what's really happening, and then adapt our methods to find the best solution. Artisan Prime Mel Odo sparkled with colors of wonder and delight. This is remarkable. You are a species that can become whatever the situation requires. No wonder your methods seemed so creative to us. Chancellor Veltar stood and began pacing as his scholarly mind processed the implications. A generalist species in a galaxy of specialists. You can interface with any civilization because you don't have rigid preconceptions about how problems should be solved. Ambassador Shelnara's colors shifted to deep thoughtfulness. And because you approach each situation fresh, you can find solutions that none of us would consider. We would try to apply our specialized knowledge while you simply adapt to whatever works. Jake nodded, feeling relieved that the aliens seemed to understand rather than feel betrayed. We're not the best at anything, but we're decent at everything. More importantly, we never stop learning and changing based on what we encounter. War Chief Zethros slowly sat back down, his expression mixing surprise with something that might have been admiration. So when I thought I was learning advanced warfare techniques, I was actually learning to think like a generalist species. Yes, and look what that did for your mining operations and fleet logistics, Jake pointed out. You became more efficient not because you learned better fighting techniques, but because you learned to approach problems from multiple angles instead of just one. The conference hall buzzed with excited conversations as different species began to understand the implications of what they had learned. For thousands of years, each civilization had believed their way was the best way. Now they were discovering the value of adaptability and cross-pollination between different approaches. Chancellor Veltar called for order and addressed the assembly. This revelation changes everything we thought we knew about species development and galactic civilization. Perhaps it is time for all of us to learn from the human example and become more than just our specializations. As the conference continued into the following days, Jake watched with amazement as ancient enemies began working together, sharing knowledge and techniques they had guarded jealously for centuries. The Vorthak started teaching their military efficiency to peaceful species, while the Elthari shared their scientific knowledge with warrior races. The Great Deception was over, but it had accomplished something no one expected. By pretending to be master warriors, humans had accidentally taught the galaxy that specialization was not the only path to greatness. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem was to approach it with fresh eyes and an open mind, exactly the way humans had been doing all along. Jake Morrison looked out at the stars from his quarters on Haven's Gate and smiled. Humanity had found their place in the galaxy not as conquerors or superior beings, but as bridges between different ways of thinking. They were the species that helped others become more than they ever thought possible, and that was better than being the best at any one thing.